Well, welcome once again to our Wonderful Day in the Lord broadcast. We have been spending several days now on the Millennial Kingdom. And as we come to Revelation chapter 20 and verse 6, that kingdom age is now pretty much at the end. We're finishing things up, and we're going to see how that concludes and leads us right into the eternal state or the eternal kingdom. With verse 6, it says then that concerning the saints, it says they will be priests of the God and of Christ and will reign with him for 1,000 years. So the believers have reigned for Christ at this point in the text, have reigned with Christ for 1,000 years in the kingdom age. And now that kingdom is beginning to come to an end, and it comes to an end with the release of Satan from his prison house called the abyss. We see that in verse 7. When the 1,000 years were completed, Satan will be released from his prison. So he is now, we go back up to verse 1 and 2 of chapter 20, where he has been thrown into this abyss. He's been chained. He's been locked up. He cannot get out, and he cannot deceive the nations. But when he comes forth now at the end of this 1,000-year time, we find he immediately returns to his old ways. In verse 8, it says, and will come out to deceive the nations which are in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together for the war. So his first step is to deceive. That's what he does throughout all eternity, throughout all of history, to put it that way, all the way back to the Garden of Eden, right to the very end of his opportunities before he's cast permanently away. He is a deceiver, and he comes forth once again to deceive the world and to turn them against the Lord Jesus. And that's what he does. The interesting thing is, and the sad thing is, he is able to come at the end of the millennial kingdom, after Christ has reigned on earth in a perfect kingdom, as perfect as anybody has ever seen, and he is able to deceive the nations in such a way that multitudes follow him in that deception and in following him to rebel against Christ. It's an unbelievable thing. I guess it shows us, and maybe one of the reasons why all this is taking place, is that even in a perfect environment, that does not create a perfect heart. A perfect heart is created only through the redemption of the Lord Jesus Christ and the ultimate new nature that we'll have for all eternity in our new glorified bodies. But until then, we are battling with a nature that wants to rebel. And so even in a perfect environment, although the majority, I believe, during that kingdom age have followed Christ and have placed their faith in him, there apparently are multitudes that have not. And they're more than happy to join Satan in this rebellion once he steps forward and begins to lead them. It tells us here that he goes to the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together for the war. Now, this term Gog and Magog, these two places, have created quite a buzz for the prophetic people. Just who are these people, and when does this battle take place? You might recall that in Ezekiel chapter 38, there's another battle, huge world war that takes place that pertain to Gog and Magog. They're principal players at that time. And the question is this the same battle that Ezekiel prophesies back in his prophetic book? Some believe it is. Others believe that it is a battle that actually precedes the tribulation period and ushers in the tribulation period after the rapture of the church. Others believe that it takes place in the midpoint of the tribulation, and it is at that point that the Antichrist conquers all comers, and he totally controls the planet at that point. And then, like I said, some believe this is the same battle that is described by Ezekiel. I do not take that this is the same battle that Ezekiel describes. There's a number of differences. We do know the timing of this one is at the end of the kingdom age and prior to the setting up of the eternal state. So it's right at that end period. We know exactly when it is. I believe this is a battle that has some similarities to Ezekiel's, but is not the same battle. I think Ezekiel's battle probably takes place at the midpoint of the tribulation, could be at the beginning, but probably not at this particular point. But we do find at this point then that those who turn against the Lord are destroyed by the Lord in verse 9 when fire comes down out of heaven and devours them. And then Satan himself, verse 10, who deceived them, is thrown into the lake of fire and brimstone where the beast and the false prophet are also, and they'll be tormented day and night forever and ever. And so the world itself is destroyed at this point, and all those that come against him, that is, and Satan himself is cast into the lake of fire. And thus ends the kingdom age with this final battle of rebellion, ushering in one more thing before the eternal state begins, and that is a final judgment upon unbelievers. We want to look at that one next time. I hope you can join us. You have a wonderful day in the Lord.